Hi guys, my name's Dan Elkington. I do a bit of strongman. I've entered a few competitions, won one, podiumed it a lot. Went from beginner to intermediate in about a year. I've recently started playing rugby. So I've been trying to redesign a beginner's workout schedule to allow people to essentially play rugby and work on some real core functional strength for rugby in any commercial gym. I'm here today at the PRSA in Boston, which is, I would describe as a pretty decent starters gym. It's got a pool and all sorts as well. So I'm just going to talk you through the program that I've developed over the next few videos. Recent research suggests that rather than like a push-pull leg split, we focus on a posterior and then a push, and then leg day is really just quads with a little bit of hamstrings and a little bit, but it's a real quad focus on leg day. If you're playing rugby, you don't need leg day. If you've got a game, don't do leg day at all that week. It takes way too much fatigue out of your legs. After you've been really pushing it strength-wise, on average, it takes about sort of 14 to 16 days to recover. So, you know, if you've got a game that week, don't do leg day. Just do your posterior and your push day. If you aren't lucky enough to get a game on a Saturday or a Sunday, then by all means do a leg day instead. And that is part of the program. We will go through the leg day. But anyway, we're looking at posterior chain, which means all the muscles down your back, including your back muscles. As it's rugby, you don't need to focus so much on stuff like lats because you don't need to pull yourself up very frequently in rugby. So we're not massively bothered about that. We don't actually need to do arms a lot because there's not a lot of this going on. We're not really allowed to pull a lot in rugby anymore. So yeah, let's get started. So the first thing at the beginning of every single warm-up, what we're going to do is some stretches. My basic stretching routine is to get down into a downward dog. Some people call this, I forget what they call it, like walks or whatever. These stretch your hamstrings really nicely. And what you're trying to do is walk backwards, because that stretches your hamstrings more. So you want to get to a point where you've kind of got a really nice stretch going on in your hamstrings. Then after that, I tend to do these boys, where you're just like rocking backwards and forwards, feeling a deep stretch into your groin area. Again, that's really important in rugby because you need to get down really low. And the last thing that you might want to do is some of these boys where you just kind of lean back and feel a nice big stretch on your quads. And if you do all of those with your usual like twisty sort of things for about 5 minutes at the start of every warm-up, a mix of static and dynamic stretches, then you're pretty much ready for the day. Start of every single warm-up, do some box jumps. Research has shown that, I say research, it was about 10 years ago now. There was a paper done by some college in the States where they looked at essentially athletes across all different types of sports, and they found that basically those athletes that trained jumping were the ones that were better at jumping. But that was a cross discipline. So I know that sounds dumb, but like people who didn't train jumping in general, who play like, I don't know, hockey, where there's not a lot of jumping involved, couldn't jump any higher than, say, your average power lifter, despite like weight differences and all the rest. The thing that makes a difference with jumping upwards is practicing jumping upwards. So basketball players and high jumpers, really good at jumping, but there's no kind of fitness level that determines, or weight actually, that determines how high you can jump. Now, these are quite simple. You just start on the ground, you plant 2 feet, then you explode up and land quite nicely. And I do 10 of them just at the start of every jump. Once you get a bit more practiced, you can go to doing like 10 of these at a proper height. And try and do that in between, where you just kind of plant your feet and then jump back up again. And that's a really good warm up. So stretches, box jumps, fantastic for rugby.